Hey, it's Armin Van Buuren here. Thank you so much for submitting your questions. I'm really looking forward to answer them. And thank you to Romeo for having me on your show. Here we go.
How does it feel when you're on stage playing your songs for a huge audience?
It feels so amazing if you go into the studio with an idea. You have nothing in the morning, and in the afternoon you have an idea for a track. And then when I think it's good enough to test it out, I play it for the crowd. And if you see people reacting to the song that you created or was part of creating, yeah, that feels amazing. You know, it's the biggest honor you can get as an artist, I think. And it's also the biggest kick that I get in my work.
How do you prepare for a set in a country you only visit every 2 or 3 years compared to a place you DJ very often?
Well, when I do a gig, I always try to look where I'm going, what kind of venue I have, what kind of tracks do people expect me to play. So for me, it doesn't really matter if I am there for the first time or that I've been there just 3 months ago. I always look at what is the current track selection. Do people want to hear more instrumental stuff? Do they like to hear some vocals? Do you want to go uplifting, the harder stuff, which I really like, or do they want to have a slow build-up? It also depends on what other DJs are booked before me, after me, if it's a festival or if it's a club gig. So there's a lot of things that I have to take into account before I do a gig.
What are some of the main barriers of being a successful DJ, and how did you overcome those barriers?
Well, some of the biggest barriers I find are, for example, being away from home. I have a daughter and a son now, and of course a very lovely wife. So being away from them is really hard, but playing in front of a big crowd always makes up for it. I have to admit that the time zones, the jet lags, that's kind of the hardest thing for me. I mean, I can overcome being alone in a hotel room, but when you're back home and you're really jet lagged and tired, it sometimes makes it really tough, especially because you know, I just did a great gig. I come home and I'm really tired, and I'm usually a little bit grumpy to the people around me that I love the most. So that's kind of hard sometimes, but you know, I get so much back for it, and I don't want to complain because I still think this is the best job in the world.
Out of all the DJ gigs you've played in your career, what are the 3 most unforgettable?
Wow, that's a difficult question to answer. I mean, every gig is, you know, something special. I'd like to see it that way. But if you really put a gun to my head, and if I really have to answer this question, I will mention the Armin Only show for Mirage that I did back in 2010. Why? Because I did a 9-hour set for 20,000 people, live broadcasted on TV, and all the people that I ever worked with were there with me. So it made it very special the night. I also want to mention the State of Trance gig at Madison Square Garden in New York City, because to sell out a venue that is that important, that has such a big history, and one of the most important cities in the world, New York City, made it really, really special. And this year I played for the new King and Queen, just announced in the city of Amsterdam. They just had the big coronation ceremony, and I played with the Royal Dutch Symphony Orchestra, het Concertgebouworkest, as we say, and they're like one of the best orchestras in the world. And the fact that they were open to play with me on that stage was really a brilliant moment. And then the King and Queen came off the boat, especially to shake my hand and to say hi to the people. So that was a really glorious moment that I'll never forget.
Who was your main influence when you first started out, and who did you try to mix and sound like?
Sorry, who I mix?
Who was your main influence when you first started out,
Mm-hmm.
when you started DJing, and who did you try to mix and sound like?
I'd like to think that my main influences was Ben Liebrand. He's a Dutch master mixer who deserves a lot more credit for what he's done. I think he has more golden and platinum records in his house than you and I have normal records or CDs or downloads for that matter. He's, you know, for me the Jedi Master, and he knows it. He was actually one of the very first people to mix 2 records together. I know it sounds silly now because that's what most people do when they're DJing, but back in the day it was pretty uncommon to do stuff like that. So I really, in the beginning of my career, I listened closely to his mixes and tried to do his tricks. But this was already back in 1988, 89, 90. You know, it's a long time ago.
How much longer do you think you will continue to make music, and who do you think is the best artist, other than yourself, in trance music right now?
I'd like to think that I'm going to be around for quite a while. I mean, I still love making music, and it may sound a little bit silly, but I feel like I've just started because I have so much that I want to achieve, so many ideas. You know, I just released my Intense album that did really well with all kinds of new sounds, new collaborations. And for the next album, I'm already thinking about special collaborations as well. So I'd like, you know, as long as I enjoy being in the studio and enjoy the most of what I do, then I'll keep continuing what I do. And, you know, to see so much support from the fans obviously helps. And right now, I think Andrew Rayel, for me personally, is, of course, he's signed to my label, but that has nothing to do with it. I just think he's an amazing DJ, an amazing person, and a great producer.
How many foreign languages do you know?
I speak fluently Dutch, English. I speak a little bit of French. J'ai envie de toi. And German. I can speak German if I have to, and if after I drank 2 beers. And I wish I could speak more languages. And every year I tell myself I need to learn Spanish because I spend a lot of time in Spain during the year, especially in Ibiza. But I hope I have some more time in the future to learn another language, which would really mean a lot to me, actually.
Trance music seems to be changing every day. How do you think it will evolve over the next 20 years?
I think the basic elements of trance music will always be there. I mean, if you compare the trance sound of now back to the sound of 99, 2000, I think a few elements remain. It's uplifting, it's euphoric, it's instrumental, and it uplifts your spirit, you know. And I think the way we produce trance nowadays is usually in the box. It's all within one DAW. It used to be one big mixer with external equipment and all that. So I think the old trance sound is going to come back a little bit. You know, the sound of LSG, Guerrilla Records, Limbo, the older Paul van Dyk sound, the sound that I grew up listening to, and that really inspired me to get into trance music. But I have to say, I think 2013 is again one of the best years for trance music. If you look at the tracks that are out right now, it's really amazing.
How do you manage such a busy schedule?
I manage such a busy schedule because I have a great team of people that help me every week. The most important decisions I still take myself. But for example, when I have a quiz on my show, on my radio show, or when I have some important information, I have people that help me with the radio show every week. I still select the tracks every week. I still present the show every week, and I make sure that everything is done. So I still do the important decisions. Same thing goes for my shows. I still decide, I'm still the one DJing, I still decide which tracks get played, what track I open with, what encore I play. Sometimes drive my tour manager nuts because I change my mind every last minute. So I still make the most important decisions myself, but I have a great team of people around me. People at Armada, people at David Lewis Productions, people at all the events, many more companies, and of course the local promoters and the venue owners that help me with pushing an event.
What was the best music festival you ever played at?
The best musical festival I ever played at, it's really hard to answer that question. I'd like to say Stereosonic just because of the size of it. I never played a stadium for 65,000 people. That was kind of scary to do, really scary.
What's your favorite shoe brand?
My favorite shoe brand right now has to be G-Star, I think. I really like them.
How do you come up with your song titles?
I come up with my song titles usually pretty random. I have a list in my computer, and sometimes when I travel, I find weird names. And it's always a different way. It's always a different idea that I get. Sometimes it just pops up in my head, and sometimes I just see a name somewhere and I start thinking about it and changing it. Intense, for example, I remember when I thought of that was in the hotel in Ibiza where I was. And all of a sudden I thought, hey, Intense, that's exactly what I want to say with my album. So every time is different. Every time is different.
Who do you think will lead the DJ Mag Top 100 poll?
I think this year Hardwell will win the DJ Mag poll. I'd like to thank everybody for the years of continued support. You know, winning it 5 times is really incredible. And even getting it back last year was an amazing moment for me. But I think it's really great that there's a whole wave of new talent coming, and I will keep doing what I do. Don't worry, I will not change my sound. I will just keep doing what I do. And I think right now it's already really great that there's so much new talent. So I wish Hardwell all the best.
What's your favorite hobby
My favorite hobby is probably running. I'd like to go running. This is also a perfect way for me to relax, and also a perfect way to listen to new music, and because I cannot switch off my phone when I'm running. And also, I like computer games. I just bought GTA 5 and just played Killzone on the PlayStation Vita. But usually I don't have time to play video games. Usually I spend most of my time with my family when I'm at home.
What would be your ideal breakfast?
My ideal breakfast would probably be something with sushi.
What was the best moment you've had in your career?
The best moment in my career, it's too hard to say that, because there's been several moments in my career that have meant a lot for me. You know, of course, winning DJ Mag for the first time, starting Armada, starting my radio show, A State of Trance. But I think mostly the support from the fans and the people that I see every week listening to A State of Trance. I mean, every week is a highlight in that sense. So it's really impossible for me to answer that question.
What's your opinion on people downloading music illegally?
I think we're past that whole discussion. I mean, right now streaming is the future. iRadio, Spotify, you know, all those Netflix for videos. I think you should not download illegally anymore. Why? Because you can just have it. You pay a small amount and you can have all the music that you want. Access to music is more important than owning music right now. So if you want to listen to the latest State of Trance episode, you don't have to bother by downloading a whole episode. You can just go to Spotify, click the radio show, and there you have it.
Out of all your albums, which one is your favorite?
Oh, that's like asking a mom what her favorite child is. It's too impossible to answer. Every album, every track has a special... Ja, nog een keer?
Ja, sorry.
Oh, that question is impossible for me to answer. You don't ask a mom what her favorite child is, you know. Every album has a different story behind it. I'm very nostalgic if I listen to 76. I'm very nostalgic if I listen to Shivers. I'm very proud of Intense. So I leave it up to you. What do you think?
What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is Blue Fear.
What inspired you to get into music?
What inspired me to get into music is, I think, basically the people that I was hanging around with when I was very young. My father was really into progressive music. Wasn't even dance music back then. It was like Vangelis, Guitaro, Tomita, you know, very experimental synthesizer music, which, you know, has a lot of reference to trance. So I'd like to say that has been my biggest source of inspiration.
Heb je last van het licht?
Ja.
What's your favorite country to visit?
My favorite country, that is so difficult. I have a lot of cities that I like to go to. I'd like to say that I asked my wife to marry me in Sydney. We have a very special connection with Australia, also because my parents used to live there for a year. And it's so beautiful there. I learned how to dive there, and you know, I spent such amazing holidays with my wife. So I have very good memories of Australia. Having said that, I love to travel to the US. I love being in Canada. I recently grew really in love with Brazil, because I've been spending some more time there. Also, Russia is really beautiful. I'm really looking forward to go back to South Africa. See, I'm just impossible to answer your question.
What's your greatest life achievement?
My greatest life achievement is my son and my daughter.
What don't you like?
What don't you like about being famous?
Yeah.
Well, there's not a lot of disadvantages about being famous. I can tell you, it's really great to see so many people love what you do. On the other hand, if people, you know, ring your house or stalk my wife for autographs, that's not really nice. So, but I'm very fortunate because I call myself part-time famous, because I can still walk on the local market in Leiden, where I live. So if you're ever in Leiden and you're walking on the market, please just say hi and let me be with my children.
What's it like having your birthday on Christmas Day?
It's always been very special to have a birthday on Christmas, especially because my parents gave me extra big presents, but that was then for Christmas and my birthday combined, so I could not complain that I didn't get a Christmas present anymore. That's actually how I got into producing, because my mom gave me a Yamaha TX81Z synthesizer, which was actually one of the very first synthesizers that I used for my track Blue Fear, and that track meant a lot for the startup of my career. So in a way you could say that birthday helped starting up my career.
What's your advice to a DJ just starting out?
My advice to DJs just starting out is to make sure that you stand out from the rest. Of course it's good to look at other DJs and look a little bit at what you like about them, but if you really want to be successful and if you want to reach your own level, you have to develop your own sound and your own character. And it takes years, it takes years to know how to produce a track, it takes years to build a foundation with your fans, and you have to work hard for it every day.
What kind of music do you listen to besides trance? Is trance your favorite?
Yeah, trance music is closest to my heart for sure. Other than that, I love to listen to everything ambient. Ambient dub. Recently I'm really into the music of Helios, Hatchback, Carbon-based life forms, The Orb, Future Sound of London. Those are my favorite bands right now for ambient music.
Even though you play all over the world, do you ever recognize fans in the crowd?
I always recognize fans in the crowd. I mean, for me, I look at a big room where I see everybody dancing, so I see a lot of familiar faces, and it really warms my heart every time I see everybody. Sometimes I wish I just have enough time to shake everybody's hand, individually.
What do you enjoy most about performing?
I enjoy most about performing if you get that special connection, Sometimes it's just me playing records, and sometimes it feels like the music, me and the crowd becomes one, and that's the best feeling. Usually that happens at every State of Trance event. It's very hard to explain when the magic happens. It's just you have a special connection with the people. They really enjoy the music, and you get so much back for it from the crowd. It's really amazing.
A really strange one. Would you rather have gum in your hair or hair in your gum?
I think I'd have to say gum in my hair, because I can cut it out. Cut.
What were your favorite subjects in school?
My favorite subjects in school were biology and math.
Do you still freak out when you hear your songs on the radio?
Yes, I still freak out when I hear my own tracks on the radio. It still gives you the best feeling, My daughter always starts screaming my name when she hears "This is what it feels like" on the radio. That's really funny.
Who would you love to collaborate with?
I'd love to collaborate with Chris Martin from Coldplay, but I already approached him, and I got a really nice reply saying that he's currently only focusing on Coldplay projects. So, but I mean, if Rihanna can work with Coldplay.
If you could meet anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be then, and what would you say to them?
I'd love to meet John Lennon, not because I'm his biggest fan, but he's just the person that intrigues me, the way he looked at the world and the stuff that he changed. Also, I'd like to speak with Daniel Kahneman, the professor from New York, who wrote this fantastic book, Thinking Fast and Slow, which was a big inspiration for me.
Did you ever think about giving up on your dreams?
No, I never thought of giving up my dreams. I think, having dreams, having a goal in your life is essential. I think, one of my biggest advice to everybody could be that it's always important to dream, no matter what you dream, how big or how small. You can achieve it as long as you want it hard enough,
On average, how long does it take to produce a new song?
Sometimes I make a new track in like 4 hours. Sometimes it takes a year. I mean, it's not that I'm in the studio for a year working on one song, but sometimes it's good to put music aside and think about it for a while, and then when you listen to it again after a while, you have new fresh ideas. So that's how actually the Intense album was done. I think most tracks were already sort of half finished, and then a few months later, having a lot of new knowledge, production knowledge, new plugins, new sounds, I could use that in finishing the track.
Als laatste, dit nog eventjes.
Thank you for submitting your questions to me. I really enjoyed answering them. And thank you again to Romeo.